Welcome to Friday Night Likes on a Wednesday. It makes no sense. It makes all the sense in the world. We have a great show lined up for you here tonight. We've got a special guest here, Ian Bishop. Some of you may have heard of him. But before we get to him, let's go around the circle here and everybody can introduce themselves. Wally, who are you? Where are you? Where can we reach you on social media?
Well, I'm Wally, and I'm back in the Philadelphia area. I am drinking Southern cough medicine, which happens to be honey and lemon, and the most important ingredient is Jack Daniels. So
well done.
That's where I am, and this helps me keep score. So
Wally never disappoints with his drink choices, I got to say, and it's always something different every week. I can't imagine the size of your liquor cabinet. So with that, Wally, I'm going to boot you back into the back room.
Bye, everybody.
Wally's going to keep score for us. Thank you, Wally. Kev, what's up, man? Who are you? Where are you? How do we find you on social media? Are you drinking anything?
Normally, I'd have a giant bottle of Diet Peach Snapple, but as I'm upstairs in the bird's nest tonight, instead of down where I do the podcast, I am completely dry sitting here at the desk, unfortunately. So that sucks. I might have to excuse myself to get a little lubrication, but we'll see what happens. I'm Kev from the Columbus E13, Columbus, Ohio, West Ham supporters group. You can get me on Instagram at the CMHE13, Twitter on the Columbus E13, Facebook on Columbus E13. And you can find the podcast all over the place and on American Hammers TV after we send it to Tim.
Beautiful stuff. Lee.
Yeah, first of all, I thought I was a special guest, so I was kind of disappointed to find out you weren't talking about me. Yeah, I'm Lee. I am in Chelmsford, Mass, about 30 miles north of Boston. And I got to show you. I'm not drinking anything right now, but I got to show you. I got this Chelmsford City Football Club shirt, right? Our buddy Tebow, who watches us a lot, Trevor, over in England, he's from Chelmsford, Essex. All right, he's from Chelmsford. I live in Chelmsford, Mass. So he sent me this great Chelmsford City Football Club T-shirt. So I'm very, not T-shirt, but shirt rather, proper shirt. So I'm very excited to have it. Thank you, Tebow. Cool. Other than that, yeah, I'm in snowy Chelmsford, 30 miles north of Boston, about 2 miles from where Tim lives in Lowell. And if you want to reach me on Instagram, it's Boston Frog 5. But I don't let just anybody in. I'm very protective of my Instagram account. So you can try me. But no promises.
Good stuff. All right. And a man that needs no introduction. What do we have? 284, 286 appearances for West Ham, 16 goals, 1989 to Christ, the last year. It shouldn't have ever been a last year for you. Nice, but Mr. Ian Bishop, a childhood hero of mine, and the only guest I've ever told my parents is coming on the show. Bish, where are you? How are you? And please give an intro for yourself.
Well, good, mate. I hope it wasn't my fault missing the show Friday, that we're having it on a Wednesday. I'm in sunny Florida. I have a still in my garden, and I'm drinking moonshine.
Beautiful stuff. We're so happy to have you here tonight. It's a real pleasure for all of us, and it's going to be interesting to see how these guys can keep up with somebody who has played professional football on their points, but they're going to give it a go anyway. So anybody that hasn't seen this is Friday Night Likes on a Wednesday. These guys here are going to compete for likes. I'm going to ask some questions. If they're making interesting or good points, they will get a thumbs up. Wally's in the back room to record how many thumbs everybody gets. And then at the end of the show, whoever the winner is can go on a rant or whatever they want to do. They can promote themselves. So with that, we'll get right into it. Question number 1. Obviously, after the last game, fellas, Pellegrini just doesn't seem to be working out. But, you know, he's got a great track record, and he didn't turn into a bad manager overnight. So is this a case of right manager at the wrong time? Or is it a different issue? Is it that certain managers just don't fit the cultures of certain clubs? Kev, I'll start with you.
I think it's more of a wrong manager, wrong time. I mean, to quote Michael Corleone, I mean, he's just not a wartime consigliere. Basically, the guy seems to be, from my limited knowledge, he knows how to coach guys that are attack-minded, that kind of already know their assignments defensively, and doesn't really know how to organize them if he doesn't get guys like that. So, in my opinion, he's just the wrong guy for this team.
Yeah, it's certainly looking that way. Lee.
I think he did become a bad manager, actually. I think he went to China and semi-retired. I'll throw some names at you from American football, if you don't mind, because they're the ones I can think of right now. I think he's Chip Kelly at UCLA. I think he's Bill Walsh at Stanford. I think he's John Gruden back with the Raiders. I think he's a guy who had his moment, had his time. He's getting older. He's rigid. He's not inflexible. And I think it's not only the wrong manager at the wrong time. I think he's probably done, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he's at the end of his rope here. Bish, what do you make of Pellegrini? Was he the right man to bring in, or is it just going wrong?
I think at the time everybody would have said, yeah, he was. Me included, you know. I think we were looking for somebody, we were looking for a name, somebody with a reputation. And some managers just don't get it when you need that fight and you need that drive to keep your team going. When your players aren't doing it out on the pitch, it needs that personality. And West Ham's always been that type of club that has needed them characters, I think, and then personalities. And I think he's just lacking a little bit in that. And the motivational side for me, you know, I still don't want anybody standing on the side screaming there for 90 minutes, but at least, you know, you need to portray yourself out onto the pitch. You need to get your feelings and your emotions out to them players, especially when it's not working. There's some young lads out there and they need help. And I just don't think he's the man on the side to give them that help.
So is that what did it for you when you were playing for any club, West Ham, Man City? Did you always appreciate a manager that was more vocal, or who was it that made you tick?
Well, look, if you look back, and I think of people like Billy Bonds more than anybody, and I've just been doing a little bit of research about managers going way back, and they've all got similar sorts of win to loss records. You know, it is that type of club. We have to admit it. But for me, somebody like Billy Bonds who wore his heart on his sleeve, you wanted to do it for him. Mark Noble epitomizes the type of player that Billy would have loved in his day. You know, I know the lads love John Lyle, and he wasn't the Billy Bonds type of manager, but he got the best out of his players, and I think that's the sign of a good manager. It doesn't matter where you are in the league. You know, you're not always going to buy the best players. You're not always, but West Ham has always been a team where the fans realised he wasn't going to win every game, but at least there was going to be games, mainly against the big teams, where you would come out fighting. And I remember when early on in the season when they signed Haller, I actually sent a tweet to him, advising them what to be like and how to win over the West Ham fans. All you need is maximum effort and wear your heart on your sleeve. And if you give everything, they'll be behind you. And it hasn't worked out like that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I mean, that's all we ever ask for, I think, is that 100% commitment. And that goes across our fan base, really. Even our American Hammers here are really they're drawn to that culture, I think, of 100% effort. And, you know, we don't mind if we lose. We're used to losing. But it's funny that you say that about the managers. So let me get into the next question, which is what manager has worked out for West Ham and what about that manager made them successful at West Ham? Bish, I'll give that to you since you were kind of on a roll there. So,
well, like I've just said, I know the boys of, I think it was the boys of '86 under John Lyle, and I speak to them all the time, and I did quite a lot. Became their friends. I actually used to gate crash their parties. To be fair, I was the only one who wasn't the boy of '86 who was always going out with them. So, but I know that respect I had for John Lyle, and you know, for a man to stay there for that long. What it used to be was get one of our own. And I think that if it does happen for Manny, and he's a lovely man, isn't he? So, you know, you can't get it. I feel a little bit guilty talking about him in this sense, but I think we need something that resembles one of our own. I was sad when Slaven left. I think given time now, you know, he's top of it. And, you know, it looks now, I mean, hopefully he'll come back next season. And he's not the type of person to come back with a vendetta, you know. I can haunt us.
Lee.
Well, I have to think of the last really good sort of effective West Ham manager. I know he was involved in a lot of dodgy dealings, but it might have been Harry Redknapp, to be honest. I mean, Kerbishley had a decent run for a while. I think he was a better manager than people give him credit for. They didn't like his style. they booted him, and we've kind of had problems ever since, if you want to know the truth. But I think the last really good manager we had probably was Redknapp, and of course he was a walking landmine of problems. But that's 20 years now, and the only manager I can think of in the time I've been watching West Ham the last 15 years or so, I really liked from a personality perspective was probably Zola. I like Zola a lot. He just didn't. I don't know if he had the squad his second season or he didn't have the squad. We stayed up on 35 points the second season. It was pretty clear that he was not going to be the person to take us forward. But I liked his passion and I liked his spirit. Other than that, I mean, I liked Slav, but I think a lot of his success was as a result of Payet being there and a very difficult situation. Things kind of fell apart a little bit, and I think he was taking us down, to be honest. So I'd say if there was a manager who worked out, it was Redknapp. So all we need to do is go find some shifty former West Ham player to come in and I don't know, lead us for a while, I guess.
We got one on the stream tonight. Kev,
Yeah,
who was the successful West Ham manager and why?
Well, first of all, before I even give any kind of an answer, Lee, I think that we're going to get our asses handed to us as far as the number of likes here tonight. Truth is, my when I was doing research for this question earlier today, I went back through the managers that I know, and of course, I've only been watching the team since '97. But knowing what I know about the history even before that, I was going to say either Bonds or Harry.
Yeah.
And then the other half of my answer was going to be, I'm super interested in hearing what Ian has to say.
Right.
So, hey, look, I got a like from that.
You've got a couple already.
I mean, truth is, he's the guy that, Bonds really, really liked Ian, from what I understand. He stayed in favor with him. Harry also, even though, like Lee said, had a ton of problems, I kind of think he was really like the last decent manager that the club had. He's the last person. Truth is, he's the last person whose name like comes right off my mind, and that was even before I really started watching the club. So, I learned his name after I learned the first batch of players that I started watching. So, I would have gone with either Billy Bonds or Harry.
Yeah, I think Harry and I've been watching West Ham since probably a year after Ian signed for us. I don't know if that's a coincidence or if it was just my age, Ian. But my first memories was the Bonds years and then moving into the Redknapp years. I think Redknapp's probably the last successful manager if you base it on number of years at the club. I mean, I think only Allardyce has got more than 3 years within the last 15 or 20 years of a club. Everybody else seems to be a year and a half to 3 years and out the door. So in that regard, I think that would probably make Harry our most successful manager. I don't think we really fought too much relegation. There was a nice period there where we're pushing for, upper mid-table, which was nice. You had Di Canio and Sinclair and Bish, of course, as well, and just some really good players around the club. There's a feel-good factor there. We also did sell a lot of our youth during that time too. Bish, let me put one question to you as well. Having played under Harry and knowing Harry, and he's had a couple of comments in the press lately. Do you think Harry would come back to West Ham? Do you think he's the solution for what we need right now?
Fellas, I'm having a lot of trouble listening. I can't hear a word anybody. I don't know how clearly you can hear me, but I don't know. There's storms here in Florida. I can't hear a word that anyone's saying.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear us?
Can you hear?
We can hear you.
It's all crackly, mate. I'm gonna have to do the best I can.
Yeah. Harry Redknapp. Do you think he would come back to West Ham?
Harry come back to West Ham?
Yeah.
Nah, I doubt it. I don't know if he'd be, to be honest with you. I think it'd be a little bit desperation. I don't see it happening. I don't see Harry wanting to come back. I really don't want them, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's a lot of shout for it out there, but you have seen Harry become vocal, and you do just wonder if he may want to step back in the fold for 6 months or 8 months. But in the meantime, we have who we have, and like Bish said, Pellegrini, he seems like a really nice fellow. I do feel bad talking about him this way. What needs to happen on the training pitch to get better performances on a Saturday? Is that what are we doing wrong that's going on behind the scenes that isn't getting the results on a match day? Bish, if you heard that, I'll start with you. If not, Lee, jump in.
There's no way I could answer that question better than Bish. Did you hear us? Because I don't know. We want to step into that with you here.
I can't get a word that you're saying, fellas. Not one. It's all crackling.
Let's try it. What needs to happen on the training pitch for us to get better? Wait.
I don't hear what you're saying. Honestly.
Hold on a sec. I might have the questions printed out.
Can you read the chat room?
He's going paper.
Can you read the chat room? Can you read what's in the chat room?
Yeah, you can go into the private chat button.
Hello?
We can try it this way.
Can you see it?
You may need to close your browser and come back in or something.
Ian, can you see that? Oh, maybe that's too much.
I can't read
No.
Oh, too small?
Yeah, he's on a phone.
Oh, that's right. He's on a phone.
that.
I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
It's signed. Wait a minute.
Well, Lee, what do you think we could do behind the scenes?
I don't know enough about playing football or managing football to answer that question with any authority. I just think we need somebody who has more passion, who's going to be more connected to the players. Charlie Boy calls Pellegrini the tie stroker. He just sits around and strokes his tie on the touchline. He just doesn't seem to have any fire. And I think, as Bish said, we have a lot of young guys who could use some help. And I think we need somebody who can really provide an atmosphere for them to motivate themselves and connect with them on a personal and professional level, which I don't think Pellegrini is interested in doing at all right now.
It's not working.
Well,
I've just gone out and come back, and it's not working. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We can hear you. Yeah.
we can hear you fine. Can you hear us at all, Ian?
You're gone completely.
Oh. Well, I can give my answer real quick, and then we can try to figure
pair of
out.
earphones by chance? A pair of earphones?
I can't. It's a nightmare. I think we had problems last time, didn't we?
Yeah, maybe.
I just can't hear words.
Well, we can carry on in the meantime. Kev.
Well, I mean, I'm not a soccer tactics expert either. We make a pretty big deal about telling people that every time we make our podcast, but I'm not sure if you've seen the video of the Polish football manager walking around the locker room, slapping each player awake, and he goes all the way around the room. But I can't imagine that something like that would hurt. So the thing is, you would have to have the passion and not have a problem showing that to be able to get that kind of reaction out of the manager. And I just don't think that's going to happen.
Hang on, I got an idea. Ian, I'm going to put a comment on the screen. All right, so hopefully you can see it. I'm sorry, I started to interrupt. Let me try this. This is like hieroglyphics or something. All right, I'm going to pop that right now. Chat. Now, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, no, it's gone. Is it coming back? Oh,
Well,
no, it didn't work.
I tried to pop it up on the studio side chat too.
All right, there we go.
Oh, it's coming back.
He's coming back. He's coming back. This is maybe the only way we don't lose to him, Kev, is if he can't say anything.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We're in there.
Were you the one who sabotaged this? Because
No.
We'll just put all of his answers to VAR.
Mm. There you go.
We'll wait on the decision.
must be what it is.
Well, we'll see if he drops out and comes back in again. He seems to have the black screen of death at the minute. So
Yeah, we'll try it again in a minute. All right, let's keep going.
we'll try and get him back behind the scenes, but we've got to fill some of this airtime too, so people don't start dropping out.
Okay.
So guys, I mean, the players have to take some of the blame too, right? The performances don't look good enough, and
right.
And some are questioning now whether they're even still behind the manager. What's changed? Do you think players are different today than they used to be? Kev?
I mean, I think so. When I started watching this team, there wasn't so many touch and run Europeans in the team. It was more of a gutsier, ballsy bunch. That the physicality of the English game is what attracted me to it. You know what I mean? It's the beautiful game, but we play the ugly version of it. So that's what's awesome about it. You know what I mean? There's, you might lose a tooth out there, or, you know what I mean? You might get your head bloodied, or I don't know. Like, it just seems like, I mean, I'm not saying that people should be out there, wrestling, but the guys today, they seem to be so such wusses when it comes right down to it. You know what I mean? Except for some of the homegrown guys that understand from jump, as soon as they get a chance in the first team, what it's going to take to make things happen. Take Fornals, for instance. I don't know if it's just because he's been seeing first team action lately, but he seems to have gone through a transformation, at least somewhat. For me, he's stepped it up big time ever since the Chelsea game, for sure. I mean, I've seen much more running, much more aggressive play from the guy. He just seems to be more on the ball. I don't know if all of a sudden something just clicked and he figured out, oh, I got to play like this. Yeah. But it's like, that's a perfect example. He comes from Spain, where maybe they don't wrestle on the pitch as much as they do in the UK. So that's my answer.
Yeah, it's interesting. If either of you guys watched that Diego Maradona documentary on HBO, he talks about when he moved to Italy, and it took him a few months, in his words, to get used to the rhythm of the game. It wasn't even the style of the game; it was the rhythm and the way things move, and kind of it was just a really interesting perception coming from a pro player of that magnitude. Just for him to use that word, I found it quite profound. But Lee, what do you think? Have players changed? Has the game changed? Like, what's going on here?
I think the biggest factor is money. I think it's money. I think that there are a lot more prima donnas in the game than there used to be. I think that if you look at some of the guys who were considered difficult personalities years ago, they'd probably be considered great teammates today. What did Manchester United play for? What's his name from Leicester? The defender there, Harry Maguire.
Wow.
What did they pay for him? 80 million? 60
80, 90, yeah, something like that.
That's insane. That's nuts. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the great transfers in all of football history, and even if you adjust for inflation, I mean, nothing comes close to that. It's bonkers. And then you look at West Ham signed, so we signed Alan Devonshire for something like $200,000, which even today is a few million pounds. It's a lot of it's just the money and the fact that these guys are mercenaries, right? They don't have a loyalty to a club. They don't have loyalty to anything, only to themselves. And I think the other thing that's changed is the success of simulation and flopping. And, the fact that maybe this is something VAR will correct, although I don't personally think VAR is going to do anything positive. It's just going to mess everything up. But it's their ability to know that they can go down in the area and get a penalty instead of, instead of taking on a defender, just go over, just go down. I think that's to me, that's a huge problem that I've seen the change in that in the last 15 years. But I think the biggest thing is it's a money game in a way it never, ever was before. You don't have to go that far back to find a time when players in the top flight in England were wealthy, but not spectacularly wealthy. And if Bish were still here, I think he'd probably attest to that himself. He played in the 90s. So I think a lot of it is just they're mercenaries. And honestly, what do they care if we go down? They don't care. Does Felipe Anderson care if we go down? He just goes somewhere else,
So that price tag, though, that's not player driven, is it?
Well, no, but they're just, listen, they're doing what anybody would do. They're getting the most out of their careers while they can. I mean, if a rival company came to me tomorrow and said, we really need a marketing writer and we're going to give you, twice what you make, I'd go. Of course I'd go. I don't have any loyalty to the company I work for, other than the fact that I get a paycheck. So I don't blame these guys for doing what they do, but it's changed the game. I think it's changed the game immensely. And I think it's changed their behavior and it's changed their attitude toward how much, work they put out for the club. There just aren't that many Mark Nobles left.
What do you think about that, Kev? Are we spot on there? And is it a detriment to fans?
As far as like the money part of the game?
The money part, the commitment part from the players.
I think that Lee has an excellent point. It's not one that I really thought about when I was thinking about how to answer the question, but there's no way I could say that he's off on that. It's just another factor. Hey, Ian's back. Hey, can you hear us?
Yeah. Fixed
All
it.
right.
Yes.
You got your browser to work. You're not on a phone.
No, exactly.
Oh, it's so much better. All right.
Couldn't hear a word you were saying, fellas. Just crackling, honestly.
Honestly.
Done now, though.
That's what I sound like anyway, though.
Did you say you were drinking again?
that thing is
Booted me out. What just happened?
nothing at the moment. That's the problem. Anyway,
Figured it out.
Yourself. Anyway, to finish my point, I think that Lee's right. It's definitely part of it, the money part of the game. I would also love to hear what Mr. Bishop has to say about that. Lee was making a point about like one of the things that's really different about players today versus players from the past and the detriment. Lee, I'll let you remake your point because I'd love to hear what Ian has to say about that.
Rich, the question was, are the players today different from yesteryear?
Definitely. I think the game has lost its integrity. I think players don't really respect each other anymore. I think the amount of cheating and lying that goes on a field, it's become sometimes to me unwatchable, the game itself. And I never thought I'd ever say that. I never thought I'd ever say it. They talk about the VAR and how often the game stops for the VAR. Well, find the cheats, ban the cheats, stop this. I mean, I'll make an example of Son when Gomez got injured. If Son had been booked for his dive for the penalty, he would never have gone in for that challenge at all. I think you've got to punish them. That same game, Richarlison went down 5 times with the ref not giving him one free kick. Now, when is the ref going to say that's enough? When do we stop doing this? When do the managers tell their players to stop falling down? You know what? To go on to this even further.
when it stops working, though, right? Because it still works.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were classed as being idiots. I mean, dumb footballers back in the day. So footballers today, with all the cameras around, how do they not know people are seeing them behaving like that and acting like that? I think this is where the money comes in, where you're talking. I'm never bothered about how much money players got, but they don't care anymore. Because of what they're on, they don't really care anymore what it looks like. And because no one's following it up, no one's checking it later on, nobody's saying it was just a flick with the hand, why do you go down? It happened in the West Ham Tottenham game where they're saying, I think Sissoko went there, you don't know what's real anymore. You don't know what is a foul. You don't know when somebody's hurt anymore because this is what the players are doing to each other. Now, Harry Kane ended up getting angry. Sissoko was down. West Ham are 3-2 down at home. I'm never kicking the ball out. Never in a million years if I'm losing 3-2 and there's a couple of minutes left. I don't care what's happened to him. And then Harry Kane goes and gets a little bit angry, has a little tug at Snodgrass, a little go at Snodgrass. Snodgrass goes to grab him and he throws his legs in the air.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
What are them players thinking? What's going on in their minds? Until there's retribution, they're getting away with it. They're making referees a laughingstock if refs aren't doing it to themselves anyway.
So
Right.
do you think is that a symptom of money in the game, or is that a symptom of society today? Do you think culturally we've changed?
What do we say? Do we say all these people are cheats and liars? Do they get up every morning? Is that how they live their real life? You know, I think something's got to do with it, and money is the easy way out for them, I think, because nobody wants to be said, nobody wants it said about them that that's how they are in life. Why would they be like that on a football field? Honesty is honesty for me. You can't switch it on and off, but they seem to do that. And I think now you need ex-players involved in the VAR room also.
Mm.
Yes.
Because referees don't understand the nuances of football. And you've got the same referee makes the mistake on the field, make the mistake even worse in the VAR when you're watching the replays. So they've got their own rule book. That's part of the problem. Players really don't care no more because of the money factor, and it's because it's a knock-on effect because referees have taken over how the game is played now. So the players adjusting to that. It's made average players be able to come in the best league in the world and earn massive contracts. Average players, because when they're in a tricky situation now, all they'll do, they'll get the body in front and fall down. They don't have to get out of it anymore. You know,
exactly what Lee was saying.
How was it?
Yeah, Lee was saying making the very same point before you came back.
Okay.
Yeah, Lee got like 10 thumbs up for his
I feel
point,
extremely gratified by this. May I ask a quick question, John? Do you mind? Mind if I ask a question? So, let's be honest. How much influence do you think foreign players have had on all this? I mean, you know, you don't have to go back that far. You know, in your day, I think in the 90s, I think most of the players in the top flight were still English or at least British. How much of influence do you think the Brazilians and South Americans, the Europeans have had on this?
Everything. The only thing English about the game now is the supporters. The only thing about a derby match, it's only a derby to the fans. You know, we've let that infiltrate and take over. We could have let it come in and quelled it, but we didn't. Because you know what? Because the rules changed as well. The rules changed to satisfy it. And then the English players are saying, well, if they're doing it, why shouldn't we? I still think that's wrong. I still think the English players should have stood up and said, there's no way in a million years I'm going to be cheating and falling down, faking injury to get someone booked or sent off. You know, all the ridiculousness that's coming, the softness of the game now, the pettiness, you know, it sickens me a little bit. And I don't want to be one of them old donkeys who goes on and says, oh, it was different in my day. I want to still watch it. I want to still be entertained. I want to still get excited when games come on. You know, I was spoiled probably watching the World Cup rugby. Proper men playing a proper game and listening to the referees. You see the referees, they had the mic on, they explained to everything. They weren't scared to tell everyone because they'd been made a fool of, which is what I think English Premier League referees are now. They're idiots, honestly. They don't understand the game, don't understand the nuances, and I don't care to say it. I'll say it. It ruins it for me. I get up 7:30 every weekend to watch all the football. I don't want to come away disappointed, and that's what it does to me now. All this sit back, 58 passes at the back, where it goes nowhere. I have to record the games now, fast forward to when I think something might happen.
I'm with you. And if you looked at so 2 points. Monday, that tackle from Cresswell into Pepe.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful
That
tackle.
got me fired up. I loved it. That was old school. And you've got Arsenal supporters going there. It was a red card.
Have you noticed now? I mean, look, I'll go even further. What about Sacco, the Palace player? What's wrong? He played the ball. And you can't stop yourself in midair from continuing it through. Okay,
right.
some people can be nasty with it, which everybody used to be. But you're telling me that you're sliding along and you play the ball, and because you carry on sliding and take somebody out, and that's a foul. Have a look now and count, because there's no tackles. How many times do people stand on each other's feet now? How many injuries are just people stepping on somebody's foot because nobody's allowed to tackle? The game probably stops more for little things like that than the VAR or anything else. I think the physios are as recognizable to me now as the players are.
Yeah, it used to be the sponge, but now it's the actual physio.
Exactly.
But his going back to your point there, Bish, too. So you other guys may not have been watching or may not have had access to watch at the time. But when you first started seeing these types of players come over, whether it was Europe or South America, wherever, Jurgen Klinsmann was probably one of the first that his celebration was a dive to take the piss out of the fact that foreigners dive, right? That's kind of how it was looked. How was that received at the time, Bish, amongst like just players?
It wasn't because we were the majority then, you know, the players who didn't support it or didn't like it or didn't do it. We were the majority, and the mid-90s was when it really started, you know, and maybe it might have been Harry at West Ham that sort of started the influx of it as well. You know, we ended up with, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, and then it just spiraled from then, you know. I mean, it was at the time, it was a little bit annoying, but some of them were quality players. If you look at that time through the mid-90s, your Bergkamps, your Cantonars, you know, it was, you couldn't question that as a footballer. You couldn't question, don't bring him in. It was amazing having them in the same league as you, knowing that you come up against them and face them, you know, sometime in the season. But then it got a little bit ridiculous. It started letting anyone in, you know, and now I just think it's way over the top. Way over the top.
It seems to be, and probably at the detriment of some young English players that could be filling those positions.
Probably about that. It's a definite. You look what Frank's done now with the Chelsea lads. You know, it's refreshing to see, isn't it? You know, you look at your Sheffield Uniteds and your Bournemouths, and it's like, that's, to me, that's still English football. You know, that's English football, and it's great to see them doing well.
Yeah, it's they're certainly playing for him, which I'll use as a segue to go into my next question. And whose responsibility is it to motivate players? Is it on the player? Is it on the manager? Is it on the captain? Lee, let me start with you. What do you think? Whose responsibility is it to motivate them?
I think anytime you're in a situation where there's a leader and there are people who follow the leader, whether it's in football or any other sport or any situation, the leader has to provide an atmosphere in which people can motivate themselves, right? You can't really motivate people to do things, but you can provide an atmosphere and a culture in which they say to themselves, I want to work hard, I want to win, I want to do what I'm supposed to do for this person and for this organization. You think about the job you have right now. If you don't like your boss, if you don't like the place where you work for whatever reason, if you don't like your coworkers, you're going to half-ass it. You know, everybody does, right? I mean, I think this is magnified many times over in sports and with footballers because they have to put in such hard physical work all the time. You know, I'm sitting around at my desk, like, you know, reading articles instead of working. I hope nobody I work with watches this, by the way. But anyway, yeah, exactly. Well, I have 3 screens. One of them's always something I'm working on. Anyway, but yeah, the point is, if I'm sitting around, you know, screwing around, I mean, it's in part because, you know, I'm not driven to make this organization better, right? I'm driven to sort of collect a paycheck. And I think that it's the manager who has to take the most responsibility to drive people to make the organization better. And then beyond that, I think it's probably the captain, but I don't want to speak out of turn because we have a professional.
Listen, you're allowed opinions. That's what this show is about. Bish.
Yeah. So there we go.
Right. If you're playing in the Premier League and you can't motivate yourself, there's something wrong. You know what? The majority of footballers is what you dreamed of as a child, and to get that opportunity and go through the ranks and understand how many people wanted to be in your situation and couldn't be for one reason or the other. It's about yourself, and there's no one captain out there. There shouldn't be. In this day and age, they're all grown men. You should all be leaders. You know, I've coached kids here for the last 12 years, and I didn't like giving an armband. I didn't say, you're the captain, because they'll step aside and let him do it. Now you need everybody to be a leader. The manager will get maybe 45 minutes before the game. He'll get the 15 minutes at half time, and that's it. Once you step across that line, it's your responsibility. It's the player's responsibility. You can't you got 50, 60,000 people there behind you. You have to get yourself up. You know what? It can be the world's best, but also the world's worst, you know? Because if things aren't going for you and you're under that sort of scrutiny, and you'll get found out. So inside, you've got to go out fired up. I don't see that in 60% of players today. I don't see that. I don't see. Let's name Mesut Ozil. What a waste of space. You know what I mean? You watch him jogging around the field. It's to the detriment of every other player that's out there. And them players that's on the bench watching him do that. You know, and let's go to our place and Felipe Anderson. He's got everything. Now, if he's my teammate, I'm looking to him to say, okay, let's say Nobes is going to say, I'm doing the graft, I'm doing the hard work. I want to see you do your part. Not necessarily chase them back all the time, but do it at least when you're going forward. You know, no passing the book. There's things in the game now for me. There's passes of the ball and people who pass the book. Oh, no, you do it. Granit Xhaka at Arsenal. The best player in the world for going backwards and then pointing for the other player to go forwards. Who's giving it to? You know, you've got to take your responsibility yourself, each and every one of you. Know what you're good at and bring it out there all the time. Nobes won't let you slack. You know what I mean? But he's often the scapegoat for some reason. And I don't see that. It would drive me mad. I had an argument with Florin Radicchio, with Harry Redknapp, at half-time in one game, playing Stockport in the Cup at home. And every time we went forward to him, the big centre-half came in behind him, and he jumped out the way. And we ended up coming in, I think, at 1-0 down, maybe at 1-1. I think we lost the replay, and Harry ended up tearing into all of us. And I stood up and had to go back. And pointed at Radicchio, I said, it's him. I said, he's like a little, he's getting raggy-dolled everywhere. He's like a little schoolgirl. And Harry wasn't happy with me because I said it. But you've got to have that feeling inside you, every individual. Motivate yourself. And you look at Julian. Wasn't a mouthy captain. But you watched him play, and you'd want to do the same. You would have to. You'd have to.
So how is that handled behind the scenes, Bish? Like, is that something that a manager is yelling at people for, or the players get together, or is it the captain, or, you know, a player like yourself just calling somebody out?
Well, it's everybody. I mean, look, I'm not going in a dressing room in the corner with 3 or 4 of my mates. I'm saying it out there in the open, in front of everybody. You know, it has to be said. I don't want to lose the game. It needs to be fixed. And if the manager wasn't addressing it, which he wasn't, because at the time he was a big signing on big money, and it goes back to the point he was one of the first, I think it was after the 94 World Cup when he was leading scorer, he was one of the first players he brought in, and playing to justify his salary. Now, for us that were getting left out for that, that's what we weren't happy about. It wasn't the fact that he was earning more money. It was the fact that he wasn't doing it, and he was getting in the team before us when we were giving our heart and soul. You know, and then the relegation battle comes, one of them games, and it's all us lads back in. That's what we didn't like. But that just told us that he knew we were there for the fight. Now, I don't think there's enough there for the fight now.
So
going back to the point of the money, maybe.
I've got a question about relegation in a second, but Kev, you need an opportunity to get a good thumb. So where are you on whose responsibility is it to motivate players?
Well, my original answer was going to be the manager and that the buck stops here. But truth is,
I think you heard Ian.
I said
completely changed at this point. So I'm just wondering whether or not Ian's up for the job, because I mean, I love the fact that he just put everybody on blast. When I think about it, even though I didn't play football and I know very little about football tactics, and I've never been in a locker room like that, what he said makes 1,000% sense. You know, everybody's got to feel it. So I'm going to go with his opinion because he is right, and there's no doubt in my mind about it.
I'll give you a thumbs up for that too. That there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So, Bish, just for you, and if you guys will notice, I'm not giving out thumbs for little sidebar conversations that we're having. So we'll have a bit of a fair fight here. But so you spoke about relegation, and obviously the boys got relegated. What was it, the 91-92 season that you were a part of? What stands out to you from that season? Were there certain moments where you think, you know, that went wrong, or somebody wasn't doing something right? You know, are there pieces of your memory that just go, it just didn't feel right at that time?
It's well documented. When you're down there and struggling, which we was, you know, it was at that time we were too good for the second division, and really not strong enough when we came up to sustain it. You know, we still had our moments. I think we still had the odd performance where people would look at us and say, oh, "How are they in that position?" It was, you know, it was absurd that they come out and perform like that. But I mean, if my memory serves me right, we got promoted the 2 following seasons. We went down. We got straight back, you know, and that shows a lot of character with the type of players that we had then. You know, you've got to take the adversity, but then you've got to realize and learn from it. So okay, it happened once. The second time, it's like because 91 was the promotion season. 91, it was the season after we came straight back down, wasn't it? It was a bit of a kick in the teeth. I mean, we had a double kick in the teeth, really, because we got to the semis of the FA Cup final. You know, we'd got promotion where we thought we'd won the actual title itself, only to find out after the champagne was opened that Oldham had won the league. So even going up was a little bit of a downer. And then the following season, it's a case of, are we good enough? Are we strong enough? Did we add enough? You know, did we strengthen in the right areas? You know, maybe back then the money wasn't there, and we didn't. You know, it's not a case of, because that group of players were a group of fighters. You know, it wasn't a case of that we packed in, we gave up. You know, it was just we weren't good enough. Full stop.
So what's going on behind the scenes then? I mean, people, when you start to struggle, you know, are there conversations that are having, and the players starting to get into little niches or groups?
Definitely. No. I mean, I've seen that before. I've seen it at other clubs, but it wasn't like that then. It was all as one, to be honest with you. You know, we'd have the horror show video on the Monday or whatever, where nobody wanted to come in, and it was depressing. That, especially the times where you didn't have a game for another week, training would be edgy and more people flying into each other, you know, because you'd have your little doubts maybe sometimes who was doing it, who wasn't doing it. And there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't many, but it would get sorted out on a training field to the extent where the manager would have to tell you to stop. We need everybody fit for the game at the weekend, you know. You'd have to take your anger out somewhere. And if there wasn't a game for, let's say, 4 days of midweek or 7 days the following weekend, it'd end up coming out on the training field, you know, with your own teammates.
So that's really interesting, because I think that as supporters, you know, obviously, and many of us play the game as well at a completely different level than what you did, obviously. But we know what losing feels like. We know what that's all about. You know, team dynamics, whether it be at work or whether it be a team that you've ever been a part of, and how, you know, people interact with each other. But behind the scenes, Bish, like, what's the difference between training or what's going on at the club after one loss versus when you go on a run of losses? Like, are the things that are said different? Does the manager approach the players differently? You know, there must be, I imagine that changes, right? It must have a different feeling around.
Yeah, it does create a certain atmosphere. You know, you lose 1 or 2 and you think, you know what, okay, we played fine, we played okay, or maybe there's games where you should have won and you didn't put your chances away. So that would be a different feeling. You just say, okay, can't wait to get back. But when you go on that 3rd or 4th maybe, and then you see the manager wondering, and maybe the manager looks a bit lost as to, I don't have the resources to change this. Or, you know, it would come the end of the week, he wouldn't want to sort of give a hint of what team was going to play on the Saturday. You maybe wouldn't find out till the Friday when he needed to do some tactical work or corners for or against, and you'd find out you didn't have the bib, so you wasn't starting the next day. I don't think he wanted to do that too early in the week back then, because you would have lost people. You know, you've got to keep everybody up, and it was difficult for the managers, to be fair. You have to keep everybody ready and raring to play again, because you tell someone on a Monday they're not going to train right.
Yeah,
you know, you're going to have reserves against the team he wants to play, which normally when that happened, the reserves beat the team that was going to play. The people with the bibs, the second squad, normally beat the team that was going to play. And the boots flying. You know, what do I have to do? You're fighting to get in the team, you know. Don't forget back then, it wasn't just football. It was your wages. It was your win bonus. It was your appearance money. You know, you were fighting probably the opposite of the way it is today when we're talking about the money. How does the money affect the game then? You didn't go out thinking money, don't get me wrong. But if you didn't play and didn't get your appearance money, it made a difference on your mortgage or, you know. But for me, it's football. It's if you can't. I was left out the side a couple of times during my time there. I remember one time we were playing our reserve games at Southend. And I'd fallen out with Harry a few times. I didn't agree with some of the things he did. You know, he did some great stuff, and really good friend of mine. It was great to me at Bournemouth, great to me as a manager in general. But I've been playing with the youngsters. I've been playing with the youngsters at Southend in the reserve game in front of 200 people. And he would bring me in on the Monday and say, Bish, your attitude is fantastic. And I'd say, it's nothing to do with my attitude. I'm pulling the football shirt on, and there's a pitch and a round thing in the middle. It doesn't matter where I am. I would go, my mates would knock on the door for me with a ball. I'd go over the field and play. It was as simple as that. And I can't speak for everybody. I know that's how I felt about the game. I know that's how I felt. And nobody was afraid back then to have a punch-up. Nobody was afraid on the training field to have a disagreement and have a fisticuffs or go flying into each other. You have to get it out of your system.
I can't imagine John Hartson kicking anybody in the head these days.
Well, he was into the queue, wasn't he?
Also, no threat of it ending up on social media.
Yeah, there is. Well, Sky Sports cameras were there at the time, I suppose. But
God, imagine if that happened today, eh?
We got a question from the audience, which is actually something I wanted to touch on, and I swear I won't talk about relegation after this anymore. But did the bond scheme protest play a part in the '92 relegation? And do you draw any parallels from that time to what we're going through today, or what the team is going through today?
No, because I think the team today is good enough to get out of it. I'm not really concerned about the team today where they are. I'm honestly not. I think whether Pellegrini stays or they bring somebody in, which God knows who, I'm not worried about it. I think it's way too early. I think we've already shown in flashes that we're capable of stringing a performance together. It's just finding a consistency for me. It's getting that. I looked at the last 4 games and I actually spoke on the radio and said this could be the 4 games that define his future, the manager. Because he got 3 London derbies. Now I said it could go either way. Now the toughest of them games was the only one that we won. So it's in there, you know. When you're talking about motivation, it's who's going to be out on that field and do something. I can sense Antonio may be the person, you know, here and there, but you can't do it alone. You know, Nobes is always there. It doesn't matter whether it's a London derby for Nobes. He'll do it against Brighton and Huddersfield and anybody else. He's just the same player. We need more people like that. And I think the manager's got to find a way of getting that out of them players, because I think we have a strong enough when everybody's fit, and anyone can say that. You know, we're missing him, we're missing them. You know, we missed Fabianski for a while without blaming, you know, Roberto. And this is for the manager now to make sure everybody out there. I don't know, is there such a thing as fighting for your place anymore? That's the only thing. That was a drive in itself. When you're fighting for your shirt, that's a drive and a motivation in itself. But I think we're good enough. I really do. At this stage, I know you've got worried looks on your faces, but I'm honestly not worried right now. No.
I'd say of the what is it? We're looking like an 11-game run where we've been in a bit of a dip. The last 3 games, we've probably played better than any of the rest of those 11.
Well, yeah.
To be honest.
Well, the first half against Arsenal, I mean, look, that's probably the worst Arsenal team I've seen in almost 50 years. And
terrible.
And we couldn't dispose of them for one reason or another. We get a goal up. Now, why don't you keep doing what's got you that goal up? I just felt we sat back, we took our foot off the gas a little bit and let them play. They didn't want to play, did they? First half, they didn't want to play. They didn't want to go forward. They didn't want to do anything. Now you've got to sense that when you're out on the field. You've got to sense that, and you've got to pound on it. You've got to jump all over it and don't take your foot off the throat. And I think we did. But I do think we've got the players. It'll probably take 1 or 2 consecutive wins, I think, to lift them.
Yeah, we definitely need a bit of confidence. Kev, who can hold their head high after the performance with Arsenal?
Well, this one's kind of rough. First name comes to mind would be Fornals. I already talked about him, and it seems that he's kind of been transformed over the past couple of games. And again, I don't know if it's just because he's seen first team action more or less lately, but he seems to have all of a sudden got the clue. I'm not as big a critic of Felipe as a lot of people are. I think that he kind of comes off. Pellegrini's taking him off, I feel, early. It's clear that Felipe Anderson doesn't want to come off when he's being taken off. And he wants to play. He wants to fight. I'm not 100% sure he's still, even though this is his second year with the team, I'm not sure he still gets it, or maybe he has a lack of motivation because of what's surrounding him. He's obviously showed flashes of brilliance, much more so than the past couple of games, for sure. But, I mean, to me, it's just a mistake to take a guy off that wants to be out there. I mean, the guy seems to be trying, so you can't really say that about everybody else. So, I mean, who can hold their head up high? Rice had a laser of a try in the Arsenal game. The thing was like a straight line. Too bad it went straight to the keeper. Other than that, I mean, I always love the effort that Snodgrass puts in. He seems like he's tough as nails and he doesn't take any shit from anybody. I automatically respect that from a player, especially for a West Ham United player. You don't see him taking dives. I don't think I see him taking dives. But I mean, other than that, that's a rough list to make up.
Yeah, I think what I like about Felipe is he doesn't hide. You know, like
very true.
He's off form, but he still shows for the ball.
Right.
You know, he's got that courage to at least want the ball to his feet. Lee.
Right.
I've seen my disappointment in him, because I love him as a player, and I think he is a fantastic player. But my disappointment is I watched him not get it in the beginning, I watched him not realize, and then I seen him get it, and now I think he's stepped back again. I just want to see him. I just want to see him have that freedom to go and do what he does best. I think he's just stepped off the pedal a little bit.
Yeah,
gone a little bit safer. And I don't want that. I don't mind him giving the ball away. I want to see him trying. Yeah. And I don't just mean trying working back, because, look, if he's doing the stuff going forward, it's irrelevant what he needs to do coming back, because the other lads will sort that out. I just want to see him bring his ability out, what we know he has. It's just a frustration for me. And I've quoted before, he's got all the tools, but he's using the screwdriver where he needs a spanner. You know what I mean? I just want to see him give exactly what's in him. It's worse for me having the gift and the talent and not producing than not having it in the first place.
Do you think that 10 role will better suit him?
Yeah, I do. But what's going to happen? See, this for me, I think when you see about Fornals and that, I know he struggled a little bit. I think he wants to be there, wants to work now. I don't think we've found his place. I think once we decide who plays where and what gels, because I do believe we've got the talent, like I was saying, we could be a decent side. I predicted at the beginning of the season top 6, and I wasn't kidding. And I still think we have that squad that we could have been. We're not going to make it now, and 12th won't be good enough, even though we're talking about relegation. But I think Declan Rice steps to the fore all the time, and I'll always respect Nobes and what he does and how he tries and wants the ball and never hides. You know, I think Antonio in the first half showed think he's still got another couple of games before he gets really in his stride as well. But apart from that, I'm liking what Creswell's been doing lately, but unfortunately he's injured as well. And look, let's talk about Dave Martin. How difficult it's been to come in. A lad like that who's not just coming into the big time at a late stage, but what's gone before about his dad and the club and everything. It's not an easy thing, and I think he's done fine. I don't really blame him for anything.
Are we met? I mean, as supporters, right? We don't see what happens behind the scenes. We don't get the tactics sessions that you would have had. We don't get the tape. We don't get the film. We don't have the expertise. But I think a lot of us feel, and the anger with Pellegrini comes from, there are very basic things that he could do to either select players that would be better suited to playing the opposition that we're against, or a system. I mean, if we're talking systems, are we mad that a 3-5-2 isn't something that we're going to, where you can use Masuaku and you can use Fredericks and bring Fornell slightly inside instead of having as a right winger?
For me, it isn't about systems. It's about players. I've had it before where you've changed a back four into a back three centre backs. You've still got your two wing backs, which are essentially full backs when you don't have possession. And you're literally a 5, and they've said, oh, well, we can't play a 3. Well, you're not a 3, you're a 5. It's people looking for excuses. Now players at that standard should be able to play anyway. And take Edison, the Man City goalie. Couldn't he come out and play? Could you see him playing at left back? Could you see him playing centre half? There's no excuses at that level. He's just got to find that blend that works and give them that confidence. I think maybe he should have a system then and stick to it no matter what. Give it 5-6 games and say, this is how I want to play. Otherwise, I'm not making excuses for them. They should be able to play any system, but they're finding excuses. I don't normally play this position. Okay, the manager says, stick to this. We're going 3-5-2. I'm going to give it all. This is how I like to play. I don't think you should adapt for all the different teams and the different systems. You end up with no identity yourself.
And I think that's what Pellegrini is trying to do. And that was kind of my point that I wanted to ask you, because I often wonder, does it matter what the numbers on a piece of paper look like, or is it we have better talent and better talent wins games?
I think so. You look. I mean, it's 11v11 out there. You've got no excuses not to chase back, not to pick up. And these are the things that's happening and going wrong. There's no excuse for that. And ability-wise, you look at the players that are there. You're not lacking in any department really to anyone else. How are Wolves? How are Leicester? You're saying individually they're better talent than what we have?
No way.
I don't think so. They've just got a bond and a gel. They've got something there. There's a belief there. There's a work ethic. And God forbid if I say it, we seem a little bit like Arsenal or like Tottenham.
Yeah.
Wow, you know what I mean? And that saddens me when I know it's in there. It's worse that it's not coming out. But like I say, I don't ability wise. When I looked at that squad at the beginning of the season, I couldn't wait for the season to kick off. I couldn't wait to see us play. I just think he's got to get an identity. When you lose a couple and your job's under threat, you start pulling from everywhere and trying to find a formula. Instead of being, this is me, who I am as a manager. This is how I like to play. And this is what I'm going to do wherever I go. And go and get the players to fit your system. Don't find a system to suit the players that you've got.
Lee, let me remind you of the question. Who can hold their head high after Monday and why?
Yeah, first of all, that was fascinating. Thank you. I've just enjoyed this so much.
Me too.
I'm just listening.
Bish, you may be here for days, mate. Honestly, by the time we're done, we'll be getting UK people in the chat room asking us questions.
I could listen all night. Seriously, this is fascinating, genuinely fascinating, and I really appreciate being here. And I'm trying not to fawn too much, but it's just like really amazing. So to briefly answer your question, I think Fornals is getting better, looking like an adequate player, which by our standards right now is pretty good. Adequate is around the bar where we're, where we've set the level. And I think Ogbonna, managed to score. I think he's playing the best football of his West Ham career, Ogbonna. Yeah. I think he's been superb. And if we had to elect a Hammer of the Year right now, for me, it would be Ogbonna. I think he's been fantastic and far better than anybody's expected. I would say those two guys, I mean, as far as covered themselves in glory, I'm not sure anybody else really did. I'd say those are the two that come to mind first. I want to ask Bish a question, if you don't mind. John, do you mind if I ask a quick question about Felipe?
Listen, I get very jealous over his time, but go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So Tim and I when we watch West Ham, and Ken, who's not in the chat room, our buddy Ken, who's been a West Ham fan for many, many years. Yeah. What is it with Felipe this season? He won't enter the penalty area. It's like he's got one of those dog collars on, that if he gets close to it, it shocks him. And he can't. I remember him last year scoring a fantastic goal away against Southampton, where I think we had given up like a jammy goal, and he just came down and equalized, or maybe it was the game winner. I can't remember, one of the two. Just a magnificent goal where he just stormed down the pitch and scored. I feel as though now he's afraid to take on defenders, and he's afraid to. He gets near the penalty area and he just stops. He just, do you think Pellegrini is coaching that, or is it something in Felipe's mind, or am I just making this up altogether?
Well, look, I mean, as a player, if Pellegrini's coaching it and then bringing them off, I wouldn't be happy. If he's right. And he's still taking them off, it doesn't seem right, does it? I mean, I touched on the point a little bit earlier. You want to see him do more because you know he's got it. That's the frustrating thing. I think the situation, what we've got to take into consideration as well, they're all personalities. They're all individuals. They've all got their own, nuances. Or is he a strong character? Is he not? Has he been used to this situation? Is there that much pressure now playing at the London Stadium that he fears it a little bit again now that the results aren't going? Because I guarantee you, when the results were going, the certain performance, he was free flowing. He was effortless, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think he needs to be given that confidence again. I think dragging him off every game isn't helping. And I think a lot of the time he doesn't deserve it. Because when you're needing a goal, you really need him out there. Because he can produce that one moment. You don't take your special players out.
Absolutely.
Really, when you're looking for a goal, you don't take them out. Because
he's proven that he can do it, right? I mean, he's proven that he can do it. He scored 8 goals for us last season, I think.
Yeah.
So he's proven that he can do it. Do you worry? I'm sorry, John. I'm just curious.
No. Carry on.
Do you see him turning into a situation like we had with Payet or Arnautovic? I know there are extenuating circumstances for both of those guys, but I watched Felipe come up the pitch. I watched him get angry. I mean, are we going to lose him if we keep Pellegrini around?
No, I don't think so. You know what? I'll go back, and I think the Arnautovic situation hit him a little bit as well. I think that hit a few players. I think that may have hit Lanzini. The unrest in the dressing room it caused. It probably an eye-opener for them players, And then they probably thought, well, I'm as good as him. Why aren't people chasing me? Why aren't the big clubs talking about me? And you lose your focus on what you're there for in the first place, to play for that claret and blue, And I think he's got to find that again. I think he's got to be cajoled a little bit. I think the fans need to show that they've got his back. They're not happy when he keeps getting taken off, because he's a special talent. There's no doubt about it. And I wouldn't want to lose it. I would, if I was Pellegrini, I'd figure every way I could to get him in a situation where, okay, let's, for a couple of games, maybe shut up shop and let's just feed him and let's see what he can do for us. Because you're going to have Antonio running, and I'd like to see him and Haller maybe given a chance to work together.
Yeah.
Feel for him a little bit. He's come into this scenario and, banging the goals in last 2 seasons in Germany, and all of a sudden nothing.
Yep.
You must start to doubt yourself. It's that confidence thing again. But, I think certain players you have to say, go on then, I'll allow you to make mistakes. I'll allow you to get it wrong. And I'm giving you the freedom to do that. That's just man management as well.
Yeah, and I think that number 10 role, I hope it comes good, because not to blow smoke up your ass, Bish, but that's been the backbone of successful West Ham teams, is having an Ian Bishop, is having a Yossi Benayoun, is having a Eyal Berkovic type character, and we never truly replaced Benayoun after he went off to have a similar style player, and now we have an Anderson and a Lanzini who probably should be a bit more productive.
Going to take charge. You know, do you remember like a little while back when Coutinho was leaving Liverpool? There was all the talk Lanzini was going to Liverpool.
Yeah,
he was good then. We just need to find him again. We need to find him again and bring that out of him again. You know, when he's fully fit, or Felipe Anderson, but use it. I like the 3-5-2. I really do. That's all I played with the youth teams here. I needed the width. You know, you've 3 against 2 at the most at the back. You should be able to deal with it. And then you've got one holding mid, even if you have 2 and 1 attacking mid, and you've got your 2 up top. You've got your wing back supporting, which they do all day now. And everybody, they're saying now about these people as specimens. They're athletes, fine. They can get up and down all day. You know, you lose possession, it's simple. You lose possession, get behind the ball. Everybody, whoever you are, get there as quick as you possibly can. You win possession, let's see who's got the energy to break forward and overload and create chances. It's not rocket science, is it?
I love surprising Wally and bringing him in. And this is still Friday Night Likes. So, Wally, why don't you give us an update on the scores?
Okay, so we've got Kevy Kevin third place with 9 likes, and Lee with 10 likes, which is pretty good considering how much he talks. And leading us is Bush with 13 points or 13 likes. So
big surprise there. Bishop in front.
Everybody.
I truthfully forgot we were in any kind of a competition. I'm just like sitting here listening to Bish most of the time.
I'm still trying to keep it sweet. So, Wally, get lost. Bish, how much time do you have left? You still got a few questions left in you?
I'm fine, mate, yeah. Don't worry about me.
All right, Lee, I'll come to you first. Next question. If Pellegrini was a Christmas present and we're in the festive time of year, what type of present would he be?
You know what I think he'd be? I think he'd be an iPod. Not an iPad or an iPhone, but an iPod. You know,
you got old school.
Right. No, something that you would have loved 15 years ago. Like if you'd have gotten that gift 15 years ago, you'd have said, this is amazing. But now it kind of doesn't really, it's not useful anymore because you have music on your phone. You don't need it anymore. It's just an old piece of technology that was great when it was great. And now it's not so great. And it's a little sort of, you know, if you open that gift in 2003, you said, this is incredible. If you open it in 2019, you get pretty angry. It'd be an embarrassing thing to give. So I think he's an iPod. Or my other answer was going to be a beautiful West Ham shirt, but it's got Dimitri Payet on the back. So, you know, so you love this great West Ham shirt, but you can't wear it. It's not any good anymore. It's just not any good anymore.
Kev.
I had 2 answers as well. My first one was just a flaming paper bag of dog shit.
So extreme, but carry on.
But my other answer is kind of along the same lines as what Lee was talking about, except for like, well, you guys might not be too young to remember this, but when I was a kid, like we used to have 2 paper cups with a piece of string in between so that you could hear each other, you know, across the room. So if somebody gave me that for Christmas today, I'd probably be pretty pissed, but I kind of look at it like that as well. That's it. That's all I've got for that one.
Feel free to replace Pellegrini's name with anybody West Ham related and what type of Christmas present they would be.
I'm going even older school, mate. I'm going a pair of slippers. You know, nobody really wants it, but nobody's really going to get rid of it. I'm not going to be disappointed, but you're not going to see me jumping up and down because I've got it, you know.
And after one winter,
we'll wear them once in a while.
Oh,
you can't wear them anymore. Yeah,
that's fair enough. I was going to go with he's an LP player, and that's because once you have it, you have to spend money to go and get all the shit to use on the LP player. So you need to invest and give him kind of the players he wants if we're going to get the best tune out of him.
That's a good answer.
I've got 2 of those right here.
I was going to say, I was listening to records like last night, so I don't know. I go to the record store, I buy them for like $1 a piece.
I mean,
you guys have the originals. I'm part of the millennial generation that bought them after just to be cool.
That's true.
It's something nice, you know, like the Christmas sweater that that you get given. You know what I mean?
Ugly Christmas sweater.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying he's ugly, but you know, just a ugly sweater. You can wear it, you know.
So there's a lot of West Ham fans out on the internet that say they're fallen out of love with the club, but I think we're such a special club, and there's still a lot to keep our faith in. So I'll put it to all of you to remind these West Ham fans. First, what is your favorite moment in our history? And second, why should they keep the faith with West Ham? Lee, I'll come to you first.
Well, my favorite moment in our history is not one that anybody would remember in particular, but it was when I actually got to see a match at the Boleyn, which was almost 10 years ago. I saw us beat Birmingham City 2-0. It was Zola's second season, the season we stayed up on 35 points. And it was another relegation battle at the time. And Alessandro Diamante hit a brilliant free kick right before halftime. And I got to see one of my great heroes, Carlton Cole, score in the second half. So it's an obscure moment, but for me, it'll live on forever because obviously the ground is gone now. And I'm just really fortunate that I got to do it. And it's my buddy Ken who got me over there to do it. So I will always be grateful to him for that. I always say that if you're English and you're brought up with a club, that's just not an experience that we have right here in this country. I mean, we're brought up with sports, but it's not the same. It's the loyalty that people here have to NFL teams or baseball teams. It's not the same. It's not the same because football is year round, right? Even in the closed season, there's transfer rumors. It's year round, and it's a passion that dominates everything. It's a part of who you are. So if I were, a native of Canning Town and I were falling out of love with West Ham, I don't know what to tell that person. I really don't. But I'll say this to American fans. I'll say this. If you support West Ham, it means you have a heart and a soul, and it means that you have character. Anybody can go out and be a fan of, Chelsea or Arsenal or Manchester City these days, or Manchester United. I had a friend at work the other day he's a big Arsenal fan, and he was complaining about how terrible Arsenal are and how they're 10th. And I said, I'd give anything to be 10th right now. Most seasons I give anything to be 10th. So I would say, again, I can't speak to the natives. God bless them, what they're going through. I can't even imagine. They've lost the ground. They've lost the heart and soul of the club, and I deeply feel for them. I do. Not being one of them, I don't know what to tell them. But for myself, it's a sign of character and a sign of having a heart and soul that you support West Ham and that you're willing to go through what we go through. And I'll tell you something else. The people I've met doing this over the last almost a year, almost none of them in person, almost all of them here on the YouTube, absolutely fantastic people, just the absolute best people I've ever known. Just so wonderful. And all over the United States, all over the world. We've met YouTube celebrities. We've met former players like Bish and Jack Collison and Kenny Brown. We've met authors. I mean, it's just been amazing. And there's no family to me like West Ham family. And that's why, West Ham is number one in my heart and will always be number one in my heart among anything I have loyalty to other than my actual family, wife and kids. It'll always be West Ham. I just don't think there are other people like this in the world. I think it's a unique club with a unique fan base. And, I would say, you know what? I will support us if I have to watch us on a stream from Kazakhstan while we play in the National League South, while we play against Chelmsford City in the National League South. I won't wear my Chelmsford City shirt anymore. I'll wear my West Ham shirt instead. And I would support us at any level. And I just because I think the people who support this club are exceptional people.
Lee, you are a soppy old sod.
I am. I'm an old soul, actually an old person in general. But also an old soul. So, yes, it's true. It's true.
Kev, up to you.
When I read the question the first time about fans falling out of love with the club, I hadn't really heard about that. And truth is, the only thing that I can really imagine is if there are fans falling out of love with the club, then they don't understand what it is to be a fan of the club in the first place. There got to be younger people who are maybe just started watching the team or never experienced what it was like at Upton Park or any of those kind of things. I mean, to a large part, it's really hard for somebody like me or Lee or any other American fan really to explain like a best time you've ever had, because Lee's answer has to do with one time he was at Upton Park. My answer would have to do with one of the 5 times I was at Upton Park, and I thought about that real hard.
You're a real one-upper, you know that?
I'm not trying to be one-upper. I happen to have been there, luckily, during some pretty special moments.
That's not fair.
But truth is,
I'll beat him with that one in a minute.
Here it
Just
comes.
been there once or twice.
But truth is, my favorite West Ham moment doesn't have anything to do with actually watching the team. My favorite West Ham moment was the very first time I ever got out of the tube and started walking down from the tube stop in that neighborhood and the street. And I've told this story on American Hammers TV a bunch of times. Like, I didn't know what team to watch. I was just there in 97 and I picked up a timeout. I was like, what team, what game should I go watch? And the timeout said that the big game of the weekend was going to be Liverpool West Ham. So I paid too much money for a ticket and I got out there and I took the tube and I was just completely submerged into the atmosphere when I walked out onto that street. Now, I have to say that anybody who ever experienced that atmosphere outside of Upton Park, there's almost no way that you could fall out of love with the club. Okay, so they've had a terrible time with the move. They've felt a lot of people that live there, like they don't like the new place. They have completely lost the atmosphere, and I in their defense, I haven't been to London Stadium yet. Luckily, I do get to go on December 28th this year. I'm going to go probably see a thrashing by Leicester. But I'm still going to be there to soak up as much atmosphere. And then I will know firsthand, not from the first couple of games at London Stadium, but where we are now. And there may be, who knows, like a massive crowd filled with civil unrest. Who knows what it'll be that day? But
we'll see after the election tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to it. I have this club in my heart and soul because of what I experienced every time I went there. And I'll tell you one last thing before I let the question go. During the last year at the Bolian, I was supposed to see a game on March 12th, my wife and I, on March 12th, which is our anniversary. We bought tickets way ahead of time, and West Ham was doing well in the FA Cup that year. And that game with Watford got rescheduled because they had to play Man United on the 13th against in the FA Cup. So we missed out on our opportunity to see a last game at the Bolian. We went anyway on that same day, and no game, walked down the street. It's the first time I've ever could see the street, because normally every other time I'd been there was just a massive sea of people. And we went and told our sob story at the ticket office, and the lady at the ticket office, she just let us on the tour. Yeah. Not only did that just happen, she gave us a bunch of free West Ham shit. She gave us hats and stuff and let us on the tour, and it was unbelievable that we got to experience that. It was almost better than having to get to see a game. And the thought about it just brings a tear to my eye. Like it was incredible. There's no way I could ever fall out of love with this team. So I just can't imagine that a real fan ever could. That's all.
Yeah, and I hate to get into that. I just think there's probably a little apathy. People are a little, just tired. But Fish, what was your favorite moment at the club, and why should West Ham fans keep the faith?
Well, at the end of the day, look, we've always been over the years one of them teams that could pop up with a cup run here and there. Think back to the days out at Wembley. Think back, if you're old enough, to the nights under the lights at Upton Park, and if you're old enough, 91 at Villa Park. If you're not old enough, ask somebody who was there, because I still have never seen anything like it in football. Not just West Ham, in football. To be 4-0 down in an FA Cup semi-final and have the whole stadium singing for you, singing Billy Jones, Claret and Blue Army, non-stop. It's something I'd never witnessed before. I'd never witnessed since, anyway. The type of things that, you know, when you look back over your career and say, did I win a trophy? No, I didn't. You know, did I play for some good teams? Yes, I did. Did I have some great moments in football? And to me, that was one of them. And weirdly enough, a 4-0 defeat. But that epitomised me, the people who go to the West Ham games, the West Ham supporters. You know, long suffering, but willing to back you because of effort, you know, because of what we put in. And it's all you need to be as a West Ham player, saying it as a player. You go out and give your all, and they'll come back. They'll know. They don't expect, you know, they don't expect you to be the top team. You know what? The club's moved on. It's progressed. We have to be happy for that. You know, we're moving along with football in general. I think there's a disappointment, there's an anger, but I don't think they fall out of love because you can't. The word that Lee said earlier stuck with me, and always did from going there at day one. Family. When people say a family club, this is the epitome of it. They take care of their own. They always do. You go back to the stadium, whether it was Upton Park, whether it be the new stadium, you're going to see faces that you recognise because everybody's invited back. You know, it's a proper family place. And look, a funnier story. I say funny at the time. I remember once. It epitomises a unity with the fans, not as much, not only for the football, but back in the day we were knocked out the FA Cup. So them odd occasions where we didn't go on a run, we had a free weekend. So I've been allowed to go back to Liverpool, and I get the train and I'm changing a crew station, the Crossroads for everybody. I get out and I go in the bar to wait for me connecting train, and all of a sudden I have people singing my name. What's going on here? There's 200 West Ham fans.
Oh, wow.
Waiting at Crew Station.
Wow.
What's going on? We don't have a game. They were just waiting for all the other supporters to come through for the fight. Old school. Old school.
I'm getting emotional. I'm getting a little emotional.
Me too.
I got
By the way.
That's incredible. Is there anything more West Ham than one of the memories that sticks out is losing and still having that defiance in the face of losing?
It's awesome.
It's honestly, I'll talk about it for the rest of my life. And to be there, not only that, to get carried off after the game. I'm trying to explain, we've lost. What are you doing? I'm wanting to cry, you know. Captain, every boy's dream, lift a cup up at Wembley. I got so close, and I'm in tears, and they're all over you because they appreciate what you did. They appreciated the share that day, the effort you put in. You know, it'll never be matched. Never.
Incredible. Bish, you got 3 more minutes if each one of us ask you another question.
Right. Yeah.
I'll let these guys take a minute. Lee, Kevin, I'm not even going to give the scores. Wally, I'm not even going to bring you back in. I think we all know Bish won that one. I mean, you guys have a chance to ask a question in a minute or two. Let me ask you this. How many of the players, if any, do or have experienced any of the rituals that fans may have experienced? So, any of you players ever go down to Nathan's and get pie and mash?
Good question.
Any of the players?
Yeah.
Yeah, the players did. I mean, look, we drank in the Bowl Inn as well. Some night, you know, I mean, at times you didn't really want to show your face after some bad defeat. So it was a little bit difficult. But for me, it was like just that area itself, you know, just turning up, making that final turn when you come into the stadium before a game, getting that buzz of the whole place, you know. It was, I mean, I've been to the London Stadium a few times. It isn't the same. I don't want to harp on about or start any arguments again, but it was nothing like coming to Upton Park. And you don't see it until you make that final turn near the statue, you know. And that was the buzz for me. It was just then, but you didn't have time to get nervous again because it was too short of running for you to then get in, get out your car, get through the fans, and get in the dressing room. But that's the only place I wanted to be. No matter what things happened in your life, what I'll remember about my 9 years there, about Upton Park in particular, that was my haven. That was my sanctuary. When I got out on that field, life stopped. You know, it was West Hampshire football, and as soon as the game stopped, back to reality. You know,
I think we've all got so much love for you because you express the things that we would hope we would express if we were in your position.
Yes.
And the effort that everybody saw that you played with, the passion, the pride that you still speak with today is it's beautiful to hear. I got to say, as a supporter, it's amazing to hear. I'm going to bring Wally in because Wally, you should have a question for Bish as well. But Lee, you got a question for Bish?
Yeah, you know, while we're talking about the ground, I'm curious, and I have not been to the Olympic Stadium. I said I went to Upton Park. I haven't been to the Olympic Stadium, so I can't really make a comparison. But do you think if we were right now top six, if West Ham were top six, if West Ham were contending for Europa League or better, do you think people would still be complaining about changing grounds, or do you think they would not be thinking about it at all?
No, I mean, it'd still be talk. Nobody's ever going to stop talking about Upton Park, are they? But I don't believe it would be such an issue, no. And it's not a fickleness. It's not, you know, okay. We've stepped forward, you know. We had to do it. It had to be done, you know. It's a case of making it your home.
Yeah.
And until you start winning games and making it that fortress, you know, there's always going to be complaints. There's always going to be reasons and excuses, you know. For me, football pitch is a football pitch, and players should take responsibility. It should come from them first. You're responsible for results, and if results are fine, then your supporters are genuinely fine. You know. So for me, you should, as a player, take that responsibility first and foremost. You're out there to make them happy. You're out there to satisfy the people who pay to come and watch you week in and week out, who go to work to make the money to come and watch you. You owe them that. That's a given, you know. So if it happens on the field, there's silence, you know, about where it is or what it's about. There'll never be another Upton Park. Never. You know, there was never nothing like it when, you know, other stadiums, even the other tight grounds with good atmospheres, it still wasn't Upton Park. You ask anybody who played it from the opposition, they never enjoyed coming there. Never. Didn't matter where we was in the league. Never enjoyed coming in. But the players have to make this place the same. They have to make it, you know, they have to find that fear factor, teams coming in. It wasn't like that in the beginning, and the stigma sort of set in, and, you know, people do tend to look for reasons and excuses. But the buck stops with the players. Always did, always should.
Kev, what do you got for Bish?
I just want to know whether or not he'd be up for taking the job. And honestly, if the answer is no, I mean, there's so many names floating around out there. Like, well, first of all, would you be up for taking the job? Honestly.
Unfortunately, Kev, I never went and got my licenses. I didn't. It wasn't a part of the game I wanted to get involved in. Because at the time, I seen my friends stab each other in the back. I didn't want to be part of that. I often came to this great place. You know what I mean? But some days now, if I see the way the game's gone, I do look now and think, what's to stop me going and get me badges? I did speak with Slaven when Slaven was coaching, and he said, look, in a year's time, if you've gone and got your badges sorted, maybe there's a job here for you. And I stopped to think, well, if anything's going to get me away from the sunshine, I'd go back and coach at West Ham, you know. And look, what's to say that I won't now want to go and get my licenses And if I did have it, I'd take it in a heartbeat, mate. I'll take it. I'll take the pressure. Sometimes you shouldn't go back. I don't agree with all that. You go and make it what you make it, you know. And I'd love to stamp my authority on them players that are there now, because, like I said, I believe we've got a squad there.
Sure.
But I believe it needs a character to bring the best out of them. And I don't know how many characters are left out there, to be honest with you.
Right. Before I'm totally shut off, I just want to say thank you so much for taking part tonight, because this has been one of the most awesome experiences. I'm not trying to fawn over you, but
No,
I wish I could reach through my laptop and give you a hug. And it's just,
Here you go, son.
there you go. It's just awesome. And I just really appreciate your candor, your answers, and your line of complete no BS that you've offered us all here tonight. It's just so refreshing. And more than anybody else I've ever heard, you just seem to know exactly what we need. So thanks.
Happy days, mate. Cheers.
Wally.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask one of the questions that the hosts here ask the supporters when they come on the first time. It's one of the 10 infamous 10 questions, and that is, which current player do you think epitomizes West Ham?
Which current West Ham player?
Yeah, is like a real true, epitomizes what West Ham is all about.
Look. The old and the young. I'm still going with Mark Noble and Declan Rice.
Mm-hmm.
Noble and Declan Rice, I think they have a genuine love for the place. And it's great to see in such a young lad as well. You know, he's got a great leader and a great role model sitting right next to him.
Do you think Rice will stick around? Will he?
Yeah, I do.
Great.
I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I hope so. He seems like he's in it for the right reasons anyway. He seems like a real genuine bloke from what we can tell. Bish, thank you so much. We'll get you out of here. I can't help but ask one last question, though. Since I'm host, I get that honor. You teach a lot of kids these days the game. You teach them how to calm up, how to play. What kind of lessons that you give to your kids now do you think that you would also teach to our current squad? What are the things that you would be saying to them that you say to your kids now?
Well, look, the biggest thing for me is the fear factor. Don't be afraid, Go out and express yourself. Don't be afraid to fall down. Don't be afraid to lose games. Nobody does everything perfect. And I always use it. The best player in the world, I've always believed, is Messi. He doesn't play perfect. So if you lose that fear factor and have that belief in yourself, just go out and give maximum effort. Maximum effort. Let me, as the coach, figure out the tactical side of stuff. Let me see, do I need to adjust the game at a certain time? What is needed? You get out and give the freedom. Look, it's why I loved Harry. Harry said to me, go and do your stuff. That was his instructions. Go and do your stuff. Trust your players that you're putting out there and give them that freedom and that confidence to go and do what they do best.
Brilliant stuff. This has been fantastic, Bish. We can't thank you enough. You're a club legend. It's an honor to talk to you. Anytime you come through the Philadelphia area, please give me Wally a shout. First beer is on us. Fantastic stuff. For everybody tuning in, please subscribe to American Hammers TV on YouTube. Bish is here every Wednesday, right? Is that your regular slot? So hit the subscribe button. Make sure that so
great speaking with you all.
Absolutely. We'll see you in the back room. We're going to end now, but thanks everyone. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Friday Night Lights.
Take care.